An empty highway, before dawn. A man runs barefoot across the freezing asphalt. He is bleeding. He is delirious. He hasn't truly slept in weeks. When he sees the lights of an approaching car, he drops to his knees in the middle of the road. He raises his hands. He believes that, at last, he is safe. What he doesn't know is that they have been hunting him for months. Since the day he escaped. And what he doesn't know, above all, is that the man behind the wheel has already been given an order. An order about him. To understand how this man ended up barefoot and bleeding on a highway, we have to go back. Not 8 months. But more than 70 years. To one of the darkest programs a government has ever admitted to funding. The early 1950s. The Cold War is just beginning, and the United States is afraid. Not of bombs. Of something more intimate. During the Korean War, dozens of American prisoners appear before the cameras confessing to crimes they never committed, with a vacant stare. In the West, a new word is born to describe it: brainwashing. The question that terrifies the CIA is simple. If the Soviets, the Chinese, or the North Koreans have learned to reprogram the human mind, why can't we? And if a mind can be controlled, can it also be erased, or a person turned into a weapon that doesn't even remember being one? On April 13, 1953, the director of the CIA, Allen Dulles, officially authorizes a secret program to answer that question. Its code name, MKUltra. At its head they place a brilliant, discreet chemist named Sidney Gottlieb. A man who raised goats and tended his own garden, and who at the same time led the search for the perfect weapon, total control of the human mind. MKUltra was not a single experiment. It was around 150 subprojects, secretly spread across universities, hospitals, prisons, and pharmaceutical companies. At least 80 institutions took part. Many didn't even know who they were really working for. The money arrived through fake foundations created by the CIA itself. And Gottlieb's favorite tool was a substance almost no one knew back then: LSD. The CIA came to believe that drug could be the key to the mind. A truth serum. A way to break a spy, or to erase a witness. To find out, they needed more than theories. They needed people. And here is the part that, for decades, the government tried to make sure you would never learn. Many of the subjects of MKUltra never gave their consent. They didn't even know they were part of an experiment. Soldiers. Psychiatric patients. Prisoners. People on the margins of society, chosen precisely because no one would ask about them. In an operation called Midnight Climax, the CIA set up safe houses in San Francisco and New York. They lured men into those apartments, dosed them with LSD without their knowledge, and an agent watched them for hours behind a one-way mirror, taking notes while those men lost their minds without understanding why. But if there is one name that sums up the horror of MKUltra, it is that of Dr. Ewan Cameron. A respected psychiatrist, president of international associations, who at his clinic in Montreal developed a technique he called psychic driving. His method was chilling in its logic. First, erase. He subjected his patients to massive electroshocks and drug-induced comas for weeks, until they were left without memory, without language, unable to recognize their own family. He called it depatterning. And then, rebuild. To those blank minds he played recorded messages, repeated on a loop hundreds of thousands of times, day and night, for weeks. He believed that this way he could write a new personality over the old one. It didn't work. All he achieved was to destroy lives. Many of his patients, people who had arrived with mild depression, left without memories, unable to care for themselves, marked forever. None had agreed to be part of a CIA experiment. It is here, in this real and documented world, that our story is born. The story of a man who did not exist, but who could have existed? A fictional character who will let us walk inside those walls. His name, David Carter. David Carter. 26 years old. A university student, with the usual debts and the usual empty pockets. One afternoon, among the papers on the faculty bulletin board, he finds a short ad. Paid medical study. No risks. Good compensation. He calls the number. A friendly voice explains that he only has to spend a few days at a clinic, under observation. He signs a form he barely reads. They hand him an envelope with some cash up front. They repeat, smiling, that there is no risk at all. That dawn he leaves his home with a small backpack. At the door, he pauses for a second and looks back, toward the light of his room still on. He doesn't know it yet. But it is the last time he will ever see that place. David wakes up. He doesn't remember falling asleep. He doesn't know how much time has passed. The room is completely white. No windows. No clocks. A single metal door, with no handle on the inside. At first he tells himself it's normal, that it's part of the study. Every morning, or what he believes is every morning, men in coats come in. They almost never speak. They take samples, give him pills, sometimes an injection, and write everything down on charts they never let him see. The food comes through a slot under the door. At first he asks things. When does the study end? When can he call home? No one answers. As the days pass, he stops asking. They make him listen to recordings for hours. The same voice, the same phrases, over and over, until the words lose all meaning and become a buzzing inside his skull. The ceiling lights never turn off. He doesn't know if it's day or night. And the moment comes when he pounds on the metal door with his fists, until his hands bleed, screaming to be let out. The sound of his own blows is swallowed by the padded walls. No one comes. No one ever comes. He begins to lose things. Small ones at first. The name of a street. The face of a friend. One day he tries to write his own name on the floor, with his fingernail, so he won't forget it. He manages to trace the letter D. And then he stares at the line, unable to remember what came next. Another night, if it is night, he thinks he sees his mother sitting in front of him. She speaks to him calmly. She asks him to get up, to leave that place, to come home. David reaches out his hand toward her. There is no one. Only the white wall, and the echo of his own breathing. He has lost count of the marks he scratched on the wall to measure the days. He no longer knows if it's been weeks or months. He no longer knows if he's awake or dreaming. And for the first time he asks the only question that truly frightens him, am I still me? And then, a slip. Or so it seems. During what must be a shift change, David notices something impossible. The metal door is open. He approaches slowly, not believing it. And that's when something doesn't add up. The door isn't badly shut, or forced, or broken. It's ajar. Placed carefully. As if a hand had left it exactly like that. On purpose. Part of him, the part that still thinks, screams that it's a trap. That no one makes such a clean mistake. But the other part, the one that has spent months dying between those four walls, is already running. What other choice does he have? He crosses empty hallways, under emergency lights. The guards change shifts in the distance, without looking back. No one raises the alarm. No one runs after him. And that silence, instead of calming him, terrifies him even more. He pushes one last door and, for the first time in what feels like an entire lifetime, he sees the outside. Thick forest. Cold air that burns his lungs. And in the distance, cut against the sky, barbed wire. Watchtowers. Then, behind him, he hears voices. Footsteps. The crackle of a radio. Now they really are chasing him. Searchlights begin to sweep the trees, hunting for his silhouette among the shadows. David runs like he has never run before. He throws himself behind a trunk just as a beam of light passes inches from his face. He holds his breath. He counts the heartbeats. And he runs again. He runs for hours, until his body stops responding and his mind begins to turn against him. He sees figures among the trees. People calling him by name. People who don't exist, dissolving into mist when he tries to reach them. When the sky begins to lighten, he stumbles and falls onto something hard and smooth. Asphalt. A highway. He gets up, staggering, and sees lights approaching in the distance. And here, exactly here, is where our story began. The black car stops a few meters from him. The headlights blind him completely. For an instant, David sees only light, and feels something he had forgotten: hope. The door opens. A man steps out, unhurried. An impeccable black suit. A tie. And on his face, a calm, courteous smile, utterly out of place in the middle of nowhere. David tries to speak. He wants to explain, to ask for help, to say his name. He lifts his gaze toward that man with the last hope he has left inside. The man does not return his gaze. He raises 2 fingers to a small earpiece in his ear. And he says, with the same calm as ordering a coffee, Subject 47. Located. In that instant, David understands everything. The car didn't come to rescue him. The door left ajar. The silence. The escape that was too easy. He never escaped. They simply let him run, to see how far he would get. The camera does not show us what happens next. It doesn't need to. We only hear the engine. A gunshot. A second gunshot. And then, the silence of the empty highway. The screen goes black. David Carter did not exist. But every piece of his story is built from something that really happened, to real people, whose names most of us will never know. For more than 20 years, MKUltra operated in the shadows, without Congress, the press, or the public knowing anything. And it would probably still be buried if it weren't for what happened in 1973. That year, fearing the Watergate scandal would expose everything, the CIA director at the time, Richard Helms, gave an order: destroy the MKUltra files. Thousands of documents were shredded and burned. The official memory of the program, erased on purpose. Just as they had erased the memory of so many victims. But they made a mistake. Through an administrative oversight, some 20,000 pages of financial records survived, filed in the wrong place. Years later, thanks to a Freedom of Information request, they came to light. And with them, the puzzle began to come together. In 1975, and again in 1977, the United States Senate investigated the program in the hearings of the so-called Church Committee. It was there that the entire country heard, for the first time, how far its own intelligence agency had gone. The use of drugs on citizens without their consent was confirmed. There was talk of Frank Olson, an army scientist whom Gottlieb dosed with LSD without warning, and who days later fell from the window of a 13th-floor New York hotel. His death was ruled a suicide. His family never believed it. And the consequences? Sidney Gottlieb retired quietly. Dr. Cameron died a respected figure. Of all the people involved in 2 decades of experiments on human beings, not a single one went to prison. Not one. Many of the victims never knew that they were victims. They lived the rest of their lives with gaps in their memory, fears they couldn't explain, or damage they blamed on bad luck, never once imagining that their own government had used them as laboratory material. Today, MKUltra is official history. It is documented. It is declassified. And yet, because of those documents destroyed in '73, we will never know the full truth. We don't know how many there were. We don't know all the names. We don't know everything that happened behind those doors. And perhaps, that was, from the very beginning, exactly the plan.